Marc Lamont Hill and Representative Vernon Jones go toe-to-toe. What's up, everybody? I'm Quisha, and today we're going to be talking about critical race theory. So I came across this video of Marc Lamont Hill, who, is like, he has a PhD, so he's like totally smart. And Representative Vernon Jones, who is running for governor of Georgia. And they went head to head on this this topic of critical race theory. So I'm just gonna react to this video because it's quite interesting to say the least. So let's check it out.
Finally, yesterday, the gubernatorial candidate for Georgia, Vernon Jones, tweeted, and I quote, "On day one, through executive order, I will immediately instruct the Georgia Department of Education to prohibit the teaching of critical race theory within our public schools. It's time for our schools to stop teaching our kids to hate America." The man behind that tweet, Vernon Jones, he is here with me right now on Black News Tonight to have a wonderful conversation. Brother Jones, so good to see you. I want to start off, and we have plenty of time, so I want to make sure we flesh all this out. I have just a couple of questions, just clarifying questions so I understand where you stand. You want to completely ban critical race theory in Georgia public schools. Is that accurate?
That is accurate because of the contents of it. I think that it clearly needs to be reevaluated. What it is doing is just creating an environment that is hostile towards one race or another. And I don't think we should be in that posture. I think there's a way that we can strike a balance where no child is feeling like, hey, because of my race, I'm paying for something I had nothing to do with. So that's all. I just think it needs to be redone, revamped, and amended.
Okay. What is critical race theory?
Well, actually, I think it's different depending on who's teaching it and how they're teaching it. I think you can agree with that. We were taught that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Well, you and I both know that Christopher Columbus got lost. People are already living here. But there are those who are using their own ideology and their own party affiliation to go to the extreme. And that's all I'm trying to address here.
But what does that have to do with critical race theory? Let me pause for 1 second. I'm trying to understand though. You oppose critical race theory, which I understand. I'm just asking, what is it? What is the thing you define it? Like, for example, if I said I'm against creationism, I would say creationism is X, Y, and Z, right? If I said I was against the teaching of sex education, I'd say, well, sex education is X, Y, and Z, and I'd have a basis for it. What is critical race theory?
So first off, I do think Vernon Jones should have better defined critical race theory, because he leaves it up to Marc Lamont Hill to define it for him. And so he actually, just in sort of a political strategy perspective, he gives Marc Lamont Hill the advantage of letting him define what this is. So that's my first point. He should have better defined it, but let's continue.
Well, first of all, again, I can tell you, but it's left up to you to understand. I can't make you understand. The fact of it is, the critical race theory, even on its basis, should not be taught in our schools, period. Now, if you can't understand...
But what is it?
If you want to debate, well, to me, what it does, to me, my interpretation, as well as many others...
No, not what it does, what is it? How do you define it? I'm just asking you to define critical race theory, because my audience may not know.
Well,
Say it
obviously
again?
you don't know. And you haven't, I said, obviously you don't know, and you haven't told your audience. Well, then what is it then? No, what is it then? Okay.
Well, I'm happy to answer that for you, but you're saying...
Just answer. I'll tell you what, just answer for me. Let's not get into debate. Okay, I'm waiting for you to answer. Go ahead and answer.
I will. Just hold on 1 second.
Just answer.
You're saying that on day one,
Answer the question first. Answer the first question.
I promise I'll answer your question.
I'll wait for you. Well,
This is a blank show. Just ridiculous, but let's keep going.
why don't you answer before you move on?
That's fine.
What is it? You can't tell your audience what it is.
I think
If you can't tell your audience what it
sir,
is.
I'm going to answer.
Is that what you're saying,
All
sir?
right,
Are you telling me you can't tell your audience
In order for us to have a conversation, we can't talk over each other, brother. I'm happy to answer your question, but I want to finish my question on my show. So what I'm saying is, on day one, you've made a statement that on day one, you're going to have an executive order to ban something, and you have yet to define what the thing is you're going to ban. I'm happy to answer it. I happen to have expertise in this area, but I would think because you are going to make you're going to make as an executive order a ban of something. I would think that you would have a definition of it. You told me what it does. You mentioned Christopher Columbus, which has nothing to do with critical race theory. Critical race theory. You asked me to answer your question. There's plenty of time. We can go 3 segments. We got all night, so we'll have all the time in the world, brother. I do want to answer.
I asked you for an editorial. I asked you to answer, and you went through editorial. But let me say this. First of all,
okay, so
I'm on your show.
So critical race theory.
I didn't ask to be on your show. Let's be clear now. I'll let you talk and allow me to talk. You dial into me and ask me to come on your show. You're not correct. So don't pull that card that this is your show, because I got drafted. I didn't try for your team. You asked me to come on your show, so let's be clear about it. Effectively, you have not answered what is the critical race theory. Because no matter what I said, I told you I was banning it. That's it. Now you tell me what it is. Tell me, since you're the expert.
Sure.
Because you need so-called experts. Did you write it? Did you write it? Did you write it? You're the expert. Did you write it?
Okay. So
what makes you expert? What makes you an expert?
What makes me an expert is that for the last 15 years I've been a trained scholar with an Ivy League PhD who has written and studied race. What makes me an expert is I have lectured widely around the world on critical race theory.
PhDs come a dime a dozen. So because you have a PhD, you're an expert. But what county?
No, I don't actually. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a very, very good point. Actually, PhDs do come a dime a dozen. You can literally, I mean, anybody could get a PhD these days. And for many years, having a PhD, the rigorous effort that used to go into getting a PhD is not there anymore. So Marc Lamont Hill, touting that he has a PhD really doesn't amount to anything, because like Vernon Jones said, where is your work experience? These are all theories. You haven't actually applied them to real life. This is just a theory. I don't care how many times you've gone around the world and talked about it and lectured and studied and read, and until you have real world experience and you go in and you test your theory in life, test your ideas in life, it means absolutely nothing. We could come up with theories and ideas and intellectual pontifications all day long, but many times when you force these intellectuals into actual work, because many of them don't have actual work, they don't produce their work in the marketplace of ideas to see if the market actually gravitates to it or rejects it. So this idea that because Marc Lamont Hill has studied and been around the world and talked about it is no real world experience. It bears absolutely no merit in if critical race theory it works. So that's that.
Actually, the PhD does make you an expert.
Don't pull that PhD.
Actually, sir,
what it says is that you walk around like you got a PhD, but you know what? You're just as dumb as 12 shooters because you're a PhD.
Whoa. We're not academic. Hold on, sir. Here's what we're not going to do. Y'all got to mute his mic. Y'all got to mute his mic. Y'all got to mute his mic. This is what I'm saying. If you talk over me, we're not going to name call on the show. I have not name called you, sir. You've come on the show. You're a black Republican. I have not called you a name. I've not called you Uncle Tom. I've not called you a handkerchief head. I've not called you a Sambo. I've not called you a shine. I've not called you a ham bone. I haven't done any of that. So you're not going.
Liberals, boy, they know how to throw out them racial epithets. He's talking about stuff I ain't never even heard of before. Ham bones and handkerchief hands? What are we talking about? Leave it to the liberals to tear you down with some racial epithets.
Come on my show and call me dumb. What I will tell you is that critical race theory is a theory that actually emerged out of critical legal studies. It is a theory that makes an attempt to understand the law through the lens of race, and it's founded on some fundamental presumptions. One is the intractability of race and racism. I mean, it's an intractable problem in America, and that we have to use the lens of race to make sense of things. It also is based.
Okay, so that is true. Critical race theory was founded through the critical legal studies. That is true.
Based on the use of counter stories. Listening to as Derek Bell, the critical race scholar, said, the voices at the bottom of the well to make sense of the world and it makes sense of the law.
So this idea, critical race theory stresses a point that you have to listen to the person with the lived experience in order to really understand a thing, and race in particular, which is absolute nonsense, because there is no one who can gather enough information from individual personal stories to make real world conclusions to get a consensus on what is really happening. So you can have 10 personal stories of racism, but there are 40 million black people in America. So those 10 people, are we going to create laws and curriculums around those 10 experiences? That is exactly what critical race theory does. It takes these experiences, which are few, especially today, and it creates a worldview that it rejects like a scientific based method of learning, of fact finding, and seeing if you can repeat those facts. Like the scientific method, it rejects that, and it says, no, you need to go and look at these individual people and get their stories and go to the bottom of the well. I mean, it's just so emotionally charged where you can't think for yourself. You are basing your whole opinion or your theory on these few lived experiences. So if you go and look up critical race theory, you will see a lot of people talking about you would have to listen to a person's lived experience and my truth and all this subjective reality. You cannot base your curriculum and push this into society on these subjective worldviews.
Law. These are two big theories, two big pillars of it. And so what we want to do, if you want to ban it, you have to explain to me why. But the problem is, all these Republicans, all of these scholars, all of these Republicans, all of these non-scholars, they say, I'm going to ban.
So why, if you are a Republican, you're automatically a non-scholar? I mean, I don't understand. It seems like he's trying to make those two things go together, coincide, but I don't understand that point. I mean, I could just say, well, all liberals are non-scholars too. It's ridiculous.
Ban critical race theory, and they can't answer it. Then he says, well, if you can't answer it, then you must not know what it is. It's like on some like he who smelt it dealt it kind of logic. The fact of the matter is he can't define it because he don't know what it is. They look for things to ban to signal to white people, hey, I got your back. They ban things that aren't even an issue. There is no public school teacher in America who is attempting to put critical race theory in schools.
This is an outright lie, and an egregious one at that. There are many schools across America that are implementing critical race theory. In my city that I live in Florida, they had an assembly that was segregated. This is a outbirthing of critical race theory. They wanted to have the black kids come into the theater, the assembly at 9, and then have another assembly for white kids at 9:30. That it is directly connected to critical race theory, because the idea is that if you aren't black or you don't fit into whatever intersectionality that they want to highlight for the day, then your input is you're not allowed to input. It's basically like a doctor. It would be like saying, if a doctor can't treat you for your cancer because he's never had it. Now, we know that is absolutely asinine and stupid, but we will let these people go on and tout that same type of non-logic because it deals with race. This is why this stuff is so dangerous. We don't push back on this foolishness and say, no, I am capable of reason. I have my own experiences. I can look at facts. I can look at history. I can look at all of these things and come up with my own conclusions and present those ideas into the marketplace. But they don't want you to do that, because critical race theory, it is a straw man. It doesn't hold water. It is easily debunked. But when you are keeping out any other ideas and you're silencing other people, then you have nothing to compare it to. Because a lot of times what they will do, they will say, oh, it's just racial equality. When you hear racial equality, that is code for critical race theory. So this nonsense that it's not being taught in school is a lie. This idea that, we have to not take other people's ideas into consideration because they don't have that lived experience, that is foolishness. Changing history, altering history to fit a narrative, or only focusing on narrow parts of the history is a problem, because you are teaching entire generations. You're misleading entire generations. It's literally like a huge propaganda scheme. You cannot pick and choose the parts of history that you want to highlight. So basically, it would be like highlighting all of the negative history of America and on race, but forgetting all of the amazing parts of history that America has accomplished on race. And that is exactly what people like Marc Lamont Hill and who tout this critical race theory, that is exactly what they do. They take the bad parts of American history, push that to the top, and we can't even talk about the good parts of American history, because they are trying to mold and create an idea and force it into these kids' mind and parents on what they believe is the proper and right thing to do. And so it's like, who the hell are you to force your ideas and not allow anybody else to speak on these topics?
Public school teacher who was attempting to put critical race theory in school. Critical race theory isn't even taught in high school. It's not even really taught in college. It is taught in law school, and it has increasingly been taught in graduate school, because it is a set of theories and understandings to make sense of our lived realities through the law and through everyday life. Those are the things we should be talking about. So if you want to be a black Republican, your first day in office as governor, which you ain't going to be because you ain't going to beat Stacey Abrams as a black Republican, you only in the line because the line is short. But if you want to do this, your first thing, not to ban bullying, not to try to do something against the violence of LGBT students, not to do something about the gap in resources. Instead, you're going to ban a theory that nobody's trying to bring in the first place. That is a smoke signal to white America and really to white racists.
Okay, so he says that this is, because he wants to ban it, this is a smoke signal to white people and white racists. How? We have literally fought for equality. This country fought for equality. Black people and white people, honestly, fought for equality for years. It was achieved in 1964 with the 1964 Civil Rights Act. By law, I'm saying. And America has made incredible progress. And so to say we should not push down other people, because another component to critical race theory that Mr. Hill just so forgets to mention is that this is how I look at it. It's almost like a hierarchy. So the top oppressed, the person at the top is the oppressor, which is, in their understanding, is white, straight men. So if you are white and you're a man, you are at the top and you're an oppressor. Side note right here. So you're telling me that you're already in agreement that white people are supreme because you put them at the top. This is your theory that you put them at the top and that everybody else under that is oppressed. So you have the oppressor and then you have the oppressed. And basically it's like the more they call it intersectionality. The more intersections you have, okay, so like the top, an intersection is white and male. So those are two intersections. So the more intersections you have, so if you are a black trans woman or whatever, you're at the bottom. So the more things that you can, the more identities that the more identity groups that you can cram into yourself pushes you down. and makes you more oppressed. It's literally like buying who can be more oppressed. And therefore, the more oppressed you are, in critical race theory idea is that we have to lift that person up. It's absolutely foolishness. It is not a signal to white people or racists or anything like that. It is racist in itself, because it is saying that I'm going to judge you on your skin color. It doesn't actually judge people on their lived experience, if you think about it, because they don't even bother to get to know what a white person thinks. If you are white, you are automatically not qualified to even have the conversation, according to critical race theory proponents. It's really sad that we are transgressing, we are going back in time. These people are literally on TV and telling our children that if you are black, that you are oppressed, and you have, you demand that somebody listens to you and all of these things, and if you are white, you are automatically the oppressor. I mean, what in the world are we teaching people? We are going back in time. This is absolutely ridiculous. I have some links in the description box below that show where instances that this has been taught in schools. A link I also have a link to Neil Shenvi, who has done a ton of great work on critical race theory. I've left a link to his website as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is this crazy or what? I mean, I just can't even believe that out of all the work, how far America has come, we have decided to let these leftists come in and overtake everything and send us back. I mean, their ideas, the Democrat Party and their ideas, the left, the Marxist ideas are the reason that was the mentality of slave owners. It was a mentality of Jim Crow. It was a mentality of all of these disparities in the first place, thinking that because you have a certain skin tone that you were less than. And so we're actually going back and saying, because you have a certain skin tone, you are a racist or an oppressor, or you are an oppressor or the oppressed. It's the same thing. It is really, really sad. But anyway, you guys have a great day, and please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Talk to you soon.